Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles Podcast YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Today, we are going to talk about Beşiktaş's newest and only signing so far this window, Keny Arroyo, or Arroyo, I should say, sorry. His nickname is Cheche. He has a bunch of other names, including Alexander and Alvarado. So we are going to talk a little bit more about him. And joining us live right now is Martin Benitez, live from Ecuador. Martin, thank you very much for joining us and taking your time to talk about the player today.
Hi, Colin. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, share a little bit of light on who is Keny Arroyo, the Ecuadorian young star that's on his way to a big move at Beşiktaş.
Yeah, it's not the first big name to come out of that Independiente Del Valle academy. We had Moises Caicedo earlier, already going to the Premier League with Brighton. And of course, we have Keny Baez, who's going to move to Chelsea. His move is pending. His move is already signed, but I think he still has to move, right?
Correct. He has to turn 18 to be able to go. Yeah. Keny Arroyo already is 18. But Keny Baez turns 18 in May, and then he'll be able to move in the summer to Chelsea.
Yeah. But before we start talking about Keny Arroyo, I keep saying Arroyo. I don't know why I do that. But before we start talking about the player, let's talk a little bit more about you, Martin. Let's tell our listeners and our watchers, our viewers, exactly what gives you expertise on Ecuadorian football, what you do in day-to-day life, and so forth.
Well, I live here in Quito, Ecuador. I'm a graduated coach from the Ecuadorian Football Federation. I have a license in physical training and team training. I have my own academy here. It's called Ecuador Heroes. I work in Quito, the capital of Ecuador, and I've been able to watch and scout many players like Keny Arroyo and others. For example, on my Twitter page, on my YouTube, I talk about Ecuadorian football all in English. So,
yeah, at Ecuador Heroes, by the way, also on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So go give Martin a follow over there because it's fantastic to find people who bring the news in English, and it makes it a lot more accessible, easier to find information. So I think accounts like yours are fantastic to have around. Even though nowadays you have the great translation functions on Twitter and stuff like that, still having somebody who actually talks about it in English makes it a lot easier to find the information. Otherwise you'd have to look in the native language, of course. So go and check that out and give Martin a follow. So Martin, when did the player first spark your interest? When did you first notice him? How old was he, and where was that?
It was about when he was 16 years old. He was playing for the U17 of the Ecuador national team, and the U17, it's called a Sudamericano. It's a South American championship to see who's the best team in South America in the U17 level. And then the top 4 can go to the U17 World Cup. And that tournament was played in Quito, Ecuador when he was 16 years old. I was lucky to be able to go to every single match, the group stage. We actually got to the final of that tournament. And of course, all the talk was Keny Baez. Keny Baez, the new Chelsea star, he's going to play for Ecuador 17. But doing the eye test and seeing who's scoring, who's getting assists as well, it was Keny Arroyo. He was definitely the other superstar on the Ecuador U17 team that ended up going to the final and played the World Cup. Yeah. Since then, Keny Arroyo has gone up to the Independiente Del Valle first team. He had some minutes last season when he was 17 years old, and this season he became a real threat. He was a starter. He had 5 goals, 8 assists, and Independiente Del Valle got to the final of the Ecuador Cup and the Ecuador League. Unfortunately, they lost both, but like I said, he was a starter. He was scoring free kicks. If you don't know, he's a winger. He can play on the left or right side or as an attacking mid. He's a lefty, and his pace, acceleration, his dribbling is really good for a kid his age.
Yeah, one of the questions that one of our viewers asked before we started going live, actually, Eren asked the question of, does he have a background in playing in different roles? I also noticed when you first reported on him on your Twitter account that you initially framed him more as a wingback, I believe. And also on FOTMOP, they have him listed as a right wing back. Does he have a background playing more as a wing back, or is that just something maybe early on in his career he got slotted in there, but he is really more a natural winger?
He was tried as a wing back. That's true. Because of his pace, the ability to dribble and beat players one-on-one, he was a good wing back on the left side. He did play later on the right to test him out, but I think he's better on the left, to be honest. Later, as he's getting into the final third and scoring, or I remember he had a goal against Brazil in the U17 South American Championship. He just dribbles like 3 players and scores with his right foot. So since then, he's been going up. He's been playing like a left wing, and then Independiente had him playing as a right wing as well, so he can cut in from his left to shoot. But he can do it all. He's like he's a player, your typical winger that can play on both sides.
Yeah. Actually, I have some footage up right now from his matches for Ecuador. And here he's playing on the left. But earlier today, I actually watched a game. I forget which one it was. It was a match from December against UDL, I think. Is that possible?
Yes, that was the Ecuador League final.
Yeah, so that game, I think he played on the right side there. And I did notice that he actually had a really good, bright start to that match where he had a lot of danger coming out from him, tried some shots. If I were to ask you, you already kind of did this, but to describe him in as few words as possible, if to somebody who doesn't know him at all, how would you describe him?
Ball control, technique, I would say agility, flair, lots of dribbling, and shot power. He can shoot with both feet. I think in those 8-9 words, you can tell what kind of player he is, and I think it's me saying this, but the last teenage superstar that came out of the Turkish league was Arda Güler. I can see some big things coming from Arroyo.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good to hear. So one of the things that people tend to like to do is compare. I'm not a big fan of it, but people like to do so. If you were to liken him to a player, like a famous player currently playing, who would that be?
That's a good question. I would say like a Dembele from PSG. Can play on either side, can shoot with both feet, very skillful, has that flair. I would say closer to Dembele, if anyone. Yeah,
well, I've seen some comparisons online. I think it stems from that interview you were talking about earlier before we went live. I think he might have meant he either likened himself or maybe he was asked which player do you like. I think he said Vinicius to that question, and I've seen some comparisons there. But obviously Vinicius is a perhaps much more goal-oriented player, and at least statistically, well, from what we can tell so far, Cheche seems to be somebody who also provides a decent amount of assists on average. He has, what was it, 5 goals and 8 assists in his professional career so far, which is
in 2024. In last season.
Okay, that's pretty impressive actually, and he's actually also. You mentioned this. He passed, the eye test, and that is something I find very important because in today's day and age, so much goes into statistics, so much goes into data, and when we look at those metrics, we see him coming out on top. In the top 3 in the world in his age category, in a lot of metrics. For example, success in dribbles, progressive passes, I believe, stuff like that. How important do you see those metrics, and how does that translate to him passing the eye test as well? Because sometimes players statistically look really good, but they're very timid. They don't take a lot of risks and stuff like that. You don't see really what type of a player somebody is.
Yeah, correct. There's the example as well as maybe there's a person who gets 30 goals in a season, but how many chances did he get? Did he get 200
Yeah.
30 goals? With the eye test, like I told you, Keny Arroyo passed it from the very first U17 tournament that I saw him play. And since then, he just exploded, got this big move. But also, it's impressive because he's top 3 for most assists in 2024 in the U18 players. So that's also something to take into account for. He turns 19 next week. He's a very young player. I think this move is going to make him explore more because he can stay at Beşiktaş and see the Turkish Super League is really good, and he can play European football. There's a lot of big things coming for sure.
Yeah, I think he's behind Lamine Yamal. He has 14 assists, and then he was in third with 8, and I forget who was in second, but he was definitely in very elite company when it comes to... It might have even been Kendrick Paez, but I'm not sure about that. But he was also up there in those metrics for sure. Oh, you know what? I think it was Estevao, I think, from Brazil. I think he might have been in second place with like 9 assists or something like that. So those are definitely impressive. Let's see, we've got a couple of questions here. Nasser is asking, what is his physicality like? Would you would he need time to develop that, you think?
Definitely because of his age, coming from Ecuador, and being a winger, he's more on the thin side, let's say. But as that position is, he's pretty strong for that position. And because of his age, we don't want him to get too buff either. But I think he looks good. I truly believe he can make his debut before the season ends. Yeah.
For Beşiktaş or for what do you mean? I definitely
he can join Beşiktaş, I think, right after the preseason when he trains with them, and I think just giving him those minutes. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be the superstar starter right now.
Beşiktaş are very slim on the winger front, so I think he's going to come in and start straight away almost.
He could, and I saw that I don't know if this is true. I saw a tweet that he asked for the number 10 jersey, and
yeah.
If he's on that level, I think he can do it. There's a lot of Ecuadorian players playing a 19-year-old in Anderlecht who's playing Europa League. There's another one in Royal Antwerp. I think Keny Arroyo could be better than them.
Yeah, so that is indeed something that Sergen Dikme reported, that he apparently in one of the meetings asked for the number 10 jersey, and that the club officials told him, well, that number comes with a lot of weight and high expectations at our club, and he said, no problem, I'll handle it. So if that is true, we don't know if that's true, of course, because this is coming from a reporter who doesn't always have the greatest track record. He used to have a really good reputation, but we don't know yet where he stands with the current board in terms of inside info. But if that is true, that definitely showcases a lot of confidence from a young player.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great because he's been at Independiente Del Valle for a very long time. I think this is his big move to really cement himself on the Ecuador national team. He's made his debut for the Ecuador national team in the World Cup qualifiers, but this can cement his spot as being the next big star along Kendrick Paez.
There's a remark here from Ender in the chat, and he says his best role is described as the trequarista. I don't know what that is, he says. I think that's an advanced playmaker on the wing, right?
Yes, it's like a number 10 that can move on either side. He's been playing attacking midfield as well, but when he's on the wings, just the 1v1s and can shoot with his both feet, I think that's his best position. But we'll see what his development becomes with Beşiktaş, and that's really great too.
So for he's actually coming in already now. He's expected to be in Istanbul probably tomorrow or tomorrow night, going into the night of Sunday. And the expectation is that he's already going to play his first game the following week. So let's talk a little bit more about him and what Beşiktaş actually need from him, because one of the things that we've been discussing for a long time at the podcast now is how Beşiktaş really lack, first and foremost, a creative spark, a fulcrum, if you will, on the wings, but also somebody that consistently, without hesitation, goes for those one-on-ones, takes on his direct opponent and beats his man, because that is something that Beşiktaş very sorely lacks on the wings right now. Is that something that you think he can bring straight away?
Oh, for sure. Seeing these circumstances, I think, and since because he's been doing preseason with Independiente Del Valle, the last game he played was in December. He's active. I think he can get those 2-3 days of training and start, or maybe come in as a substitute. But yeah, I can see him starting next week. And yes, he will be there on Saturday, confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. By the way, we talked about this off air already, but his nickname, Cheche, does it have a specific meaning?
I remember he said this in a podcast. It dropped about 6 months ago or a year ago, that Independiente Del Valle did, and they asked him, and he said when he was younger, he was playing up some categories with older people, and one of the older guys called him Cheche, Cheche. So since then, he just stuck with it, but he said it has no real deep meaning. It's just something that they called him when he was little.
Yeah. So when you talk about the player's strengths, speed is something you mentioned. Is he somebody you would say he's incredibly fast, or someone who's just explosive in the first couple of meters? How would you describe his pace?
Because of his dribbling and his technique, I think he's very fast in acceleration, like the first 1 to 3 meters after beating your man. He's really good at beating players and can still run. I would think his acceleration just a bit faster than his overall pace, but he's a fast winger and very explosive.
And is that something you've noticed that helps him out a lot due to creating separation between himself and his direct opponent, where he's able to then put in good deliveries?
Yes, he's a player that can cross with his left or right foot, but not just look for the cross. He's the player to get into the box and try to look for the shot, like a Salah type player or another winger that likes to score. I like to see Cheche, Arroyo like that.
Mm-hmm. So he does have more assists and goals right now, which isn't abnormal for a winger. But is he then somebody that does look a lot often for the goal himself, or is he also always keeping a decent overview of where his teammates are and trying to find that killer ball or that pass to his teammates?
I would say the first 6 months of 2024, since he just was starting for Independiente, it's his first time, he was more of a pass first type of player. But there were some free kicks that he scored. I'm talking 30 meters out. He started getting confidence, and just recently, maybe the last 4 or 5 months, he's been trying to take the player one-on-one, look for the goal with his left, with his right, playing as like a 10 as well. So in these last 5-6 months, he's been incredible and just great to see.
So he's somebody that obviously relies on his explosiveness, his dribbling ability. But how are his playmaking skills? How is his vision? Is he somebody that quickly spots a run from his fellow players? And how is his link-up play with his teammates?
Yeah, he has good link-up play. Independiente Del Valle had Renato Ibarra and Romario Ibarra, players who played for the Ecuador national team, went to World Cups, and he basically took their spot. Just the overall way that Independiente Del Valle played, like I said, they got to the final of both league and cup, and he was the main guy with Keny Paez. The team, I think, revolved around them. That's why I think at Beşiktaş he will not take time to to play with the players around him. I think he connects well and can also do stuff on his own. So I think that will go hand in hand.
Emirhan Guven asks, how is his defensive play? Does he track back? Does he press well? How does he do defensively?
Defensively, like I said, since he's played as a wing back, left or right side, and because of his speed or pace, he is able to run up and down that field. I think if the orders of the coach are for him to come back and go forward, he's your guy. He can do it. It just depends on the coach right now, but he, like I said, he's a fast player. He can press, he can go back and defend well.
And you mentioned already that he scored a few free kicks already for Independiente. I did notice I only watched the one game, but he wasn't taking the corners in those matches. Have you seen him consistently take corners, perhaps for the Ecuadorian youth team or for Independiente in the past? Is that something that is in his wheelhouse of skills?
It's in his wheelhouse, in his arsenal, let's say, and he does take some. But Keny Paez plays with him for the U20 Ecuador national team and Independiente Del Valle. And it's more of Keny taking it. He might have a little bit more technique than Keny, but there's been some times that they're both on the pitch and Keny will take the free kick and he will score a goal. He had like 2 or 3 like that. So I think it goes hand in hand. It'll be interesting, but he has the technique. He has the technique for sure.
And if you were to say, what are his, you already highlighted some of his strengths, but what would you say are his biggest weaknesses? What else is he going to have to work on if he wants to first succeed at Beşiktaş, but then also maybe take that next step in his career?
I would say the 1v1 duels in defense. I want to see how he does with the European style football where players are much more physical, more aggressive. I want to see how he does there because in Ecuador, it's aggressive, but because of the talent level or speed that Keny has, he was doing well. But we want to see how he does in a league much, much greater.
And another thing that, you talked about it a little bit as well, but something that I find Beşiktaş are really lacking right now is somebody who is willing to take risks, somebody who's willing to take initiative, responsibility. I know he's a very young player, but is that something that you feel comes natural to him for the Ecuador national team, the youth team predominantly, because I think he recently made his debut for the senior team as well, and then also at the club level at Independiente? Is he somebody that's willing to, despite his age, say, hey, if the match isn't going very well, I'll take some responsibility and try to force something open?
Yeah, for sure. I think for sure. In Independiente, he was the top 2 best players. And in Ecuador U20s, he's playing 2 years younger than everyone else. And he was the top 2 best player for Ecuador. He got the chance to debut for Ecuador, and he played incredible. It was against Brazil in the Maracanã. So just a little spotlight we've been seeing. I think he's ready to take on that next challenge, saying, hey, Keny Paez is here, but I'm also here too. And I've debuted for the national team too, and I'm going to play for Beşiktaş. It's very good for him mentally as well.
Yeah, maybe that ties into Nasser's question here. He asked, what is his potential like? Do you see him moving to a top side in the future, maybe in the top 5 leagues? This feels a little bit like a Caicedo type of signing to him, he says.
Yes, I could see him in the Premier League, in La Liga, Bundesliga, Italia Serie A. It would be great. I want to see how his development is. Moises Caicedo, he plays for Chelsea right now. He sometimes is captain, wins man of the match, but he was loaned out for a whole year and a half. He played for the Premier League 2, Brighton side, and then went to Belgium, and then he played for Brighton for 2 years and then went to Chelsea.
Yeah.
He's now 23 years old. So a player like a 19-year-old Keny Arroyo, he turns 19 next week. It's really great. I want to see him how he does in Turkey, and yeah, I could definitely see him in a bigger league. He has all the fundamentals to do it.
Okay. If you were to rate him as, Ecuador's currently Ecuador has a lot of talent. Obviously, his teammate Keny Baez, and then of course Moises Caicedo. Where would you rank him? Is he up there with the elite talents coming through right now? Moises Caicedo obviously a little bit older already, but and more established. But do you think that he could be at the next World Cup already featuring regularly for Ecuador, or do you think he'll still be on the bench perhaps, or maybe not even called up?
That's a very good question. I think the generation of like 22 years old and up, where you have Moises Caicedo, Hincapié, William Pacho, these players are 21, 22 and up. The next generation, the teenagers, it basically is Keny Baez, Keny Arroyo, Joel Ordóñez, who's another guy at Club Brugge. That this is like the new generation that can definitely go to the next World Cup. Joel Ordóñez also had his debut and played well. Keny Baez has been a regular player. I think Keny Arroyo can definitely be that guy, and this preparation with Turkish football is going to be good for him, and it just goes in his hands. I could definitely see him starting in 2026 or being an important player, because he's a good player and deserves it if he does a good job in Turkey.
Yeah. A question here from Tin, and this again ties into something we were talking about earlier, but he emphasizes that the number 10 jersey in Turkey is perceived as a really huge responsibility. I mean, in South America, undoubtedly the same with the number 10. In some clubs, it's not such a big deal, right? But in Beşiktaş, it is definitely a big deal, a big thing to live up to. We have had some fantastic number 10s in the past. Do you think that is the pressure he can handle?
It's going to be something new for him, very new, because in Independiente, they're no close to the fan base that is Beşiktaş in Turkey. It's going to be, I want him to take on the challenge, but he should know mentally, psychologically, he has to be okay and just keep going. But I think he can be the guy. I think he can be the guy for real, Con.
Okay, that's great to hear. Jason asks that he noticed that in some of the videos his shooting was quite good, but obviously highlight videos, you can make most players look good. You can pick one of 10 shots and make him look like the best sniper in the world. But is he a consistently decent shooter of the ball?
Consistently decent shooter. There was a game last week. They were playing the U20 South American Championship, and they played against Brazil, and he hit a shot to the post with his right foot. But the whole match, he was just taking shots. The goalie had a few good saves, but some were getting off target. But he's a player that likes to shoot and shoots well.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Nasser asks, is he two-footed? But you already addressed it, that he does, in fact, shoot with both feet and also pass with both feet, I think. And he's a pretty decent with both feet, I believe, right?
Yeah, but he's more dominant left, but he could do it with his right.
A question, by the way, I don't know if you'll know this. This is a very difficult question to ask, because unless you've been at the club Independiente, it's probably difficult to know this, but some clubs, especially you would think a club now who's got a lot of young talent coming up and they're being perceived a little bit as a talent factory. Do you know if they teach their academy graduates English, if they have English tutors or something? Because that's just a question I'm wondering, because of the communication and how that's going to go with the coaching staff at Beşiktaş with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah, for sure. So Independiente Del Valle and like other academies in Ecuador, not a lot, but a couple do, have a school. So the players who play for the academy, U13s, U15s, 17, 19s, they have a school for them that they could graduate, get their title, and they do have classes of English for the kids. So they do graduate with basic knowledge of English. And I think some players who are prospects to go out to the exterior, get out of Ecuador, and have to learn English, they do extra training for English.
Okay. Well, let's hope that Keny was one of those, because that will definitely help him along a long way. Do you think that somebody like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who of course has a great history in football as one of the top strikers in the 90s and 2000s, do you think that he can have a good impact on Keny's career? And do you think that perhaps that played a part in his decision? And I'll ask a little bit extra, which you could also answer. Are you surprised by his decision to choose for Beşiktaş? Because that's not particularly a club that's known for developing talent.
Yeah, it's definitely a club that looks for success every single season, and it's a big challenge, like I said. But it's something that Keny wants. It's great, and if he wants to be that guy that, hey, give me the number 10, or I want to play tomorrow, it's great for the club, for him. I think if he does a great job, everyone's happy. And sorry, Con, I forgot the other question.
That's a good. Well, the one of the questions was whether you were surprised that he went to Beşiktaş, because it isn't a club known for developing talent.
I was surprised that he went to such a big club. Everyone knew, and like these English class, for example, he was definitely one of the players that they were thinking of selling in the future. It was just a matter of where. So there was talks of English Championship and Belgium and in Netherlands, and to pick Beşiktaş, a team that's a giant in football, was surprising. But I think he's going to do a good job.
Mm-hmm. But he was linked, for example, to Porto as well, which is a massive club, and a club known very well for developing talent and moving them on to the top 5 leagues. Just in that, it jumps out to me like you know what? I mean, I am a Beşiktaş fan. I love the club. But if I was advising a young player, I don't know if I would tell him, hey, that's a good idea to go to Turkey.
Yeah, and I completely understand your point, because they're looking for success right now. They're not trying to do a process, and there's a lot of clubs like that in every country in the world.
Do you think that speaks to his confidence, that he says like, oh, I don't need 2 or 3 years in the Netherlands. I can go and I can compete and be a starter for a club like Beşiktaş and put my mark on the Turkish Super League, perhaps?
Completely, because he wants it now. He's played for Ecuador, U17, 20, and national team. He's been the star, got to the final of the Independiente. To do this and not go in the process, because we have to think about, in Porto, they just got a new manager who is Anselmi, and Anselmi was last year's 2023 coach of Independiente Del Valle. So he could have gone with his old coach that he knew, that he liked, but he's going to a big challenge ahead, trying to be a starter, trying to play Champions League football, trying to win the Turkish Super League. It's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions from Carlito in the chat is, how was the transfer received in Ecuador and by Independiente fans, and how much do they know about Beşiktaş? I don't know. I mean, you're clearly well informed, but
yeah, I think the overall knowledge that they don't know too much, like in detail, but they know that Beşiktaş is a big Turkish team, one of the top 3 teams in Turkey. I think that's a given, and the news, we got to think about Independiente is not a club that has 10,000 fans. The reaction was definitely great, but it was also a lot of Ecuadorian fans of other clubs, because he also played for the national team, and like I said, the 3 levels, 17, 20, and the big one. So it's someone that the whole country was looking out for, and like I said, it's an interesting move, because he doesn't go to a process. He wants to compete now and do good.
Was the reaction positive or more skeptical, like myself? If I was in their shoes, I'd be skeptical probably.
Yeah, definitely skeptical, but I think I'm positive. I think there's a percentage that there's going to be fans that are positive, but it is skeptical. I think for the majority, because of this, it might be too hard. He might play a little bit, and then the coach doesn't like him, or the tactics doesn't work out. He can't do it, and he could get benched. So that's another result that could happen. That looks dark.
So a question from Ufunfu here in the chat. He says, I miss the part of a playmaker a little bit. Does he give good true balls? Does he have the ability to set up his teammates? He obviously has a decent amount of assists already in a short amount of time, but that doesn't always, for example, Vinicius Jr., you would never describe him as a playmaker, and he gets a fair amount of assists as well. Do you think that he is? I mean, you said already he can play in the number 10 role. So is he, besides all the dribbling and all that fancy stuff, is he also an adept playmaker?
Yes. When he subbed in for Ecuador national team and played against Brazil, he was linking up very well with the strikers, with our midfielders. A player that should be very nervous playing for the first time in Brazil to linking up with Ener Valencia, with Moises Caicedo, and moving up, playing against Brazil and well. Said a lot about him, and for Independiente, not even a conversation. He was, if not the best, the second best, because he did outshine Keny Arroyo in the last half of the season, for sure.
Okay, well, that's very interesting because he's the guy, of course, getting that big move to Chelsea. Ender asks, Beşiktaş fans are a little bit worried about losing him to the Istanbul nightlife. Do you have any thoughts on that?
From what I know, he's a responsible player. There's, of course, Independiente Del Valle has sent off players like Moises Caicedo, Hincapié, Pacho, who are very good, disciplined players. They don't like to party that much. So Arroyo, we've never really seen this stuff because since he's been independent since he was a kid, I think from 11 years old, I think he has a good head on his shoulders, and we'll see what happens. But if he's gonna take on this big of a challenge, he should know that he needs to be disciplined, go training at home, rest, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of answers Nasser's question. Is there any mention on what his character or attitude is like? Do you have any? How is he on the pitch? Is he a fiery personality? Does he get fired up? Like in Turkey, of course, games can get very heated up, very tense. Is he, for example, like Vinicius Jr., somebody who can maybe take a card when he loses his head a little bit during a game?
I don't think he's like that much. He's a hothead. He doesn't get angry like to the refs or try to start fights. I would say no. He's more like since he's so flary, likes to dribble. He's just a player that likes to have fun. So you could see him most of the time with a smile on his face. Obviously, if the things are going right and they're winning, but when they're losing, it's not like he's trying to fight, get yellow cards. That's not the type of player he is. And he has a great personality. Independiente, since he's there, since he was 11 years old, they have like a funny, they did like a video of where he's explaining like, oh, this is the new field, this is our classes where we have school. And it's Keny Arroyo when he's like 13 or 14 and he looks very young. I'll pass you the link, Con. But
that would be fantastic, yeah. That would be great.
And he's just a funny character. He just likes to have fun, and I see in videos him dancing with the players. So, yeah.
So he's not like Ricardo Quaresma, who during games when things maybe didn't go the team's way or his way, could get very hot-headed and sometimes go in for a challenge that warranted a red card or something like that. He's not like that then. Okay, maybe we'll get to see that side of him in Turkey.
We'll see. I hope not.
No, I hope so too. Although, of course, Ricardo Quaresma was incredibly popular for Beşiktaş, of course. Ufunfu would like to thank you, by the way, for making your time and telling us a little bit more about the player. Yeah, I think that is the majority of what we wanted to cover. I have one more remark here from Nasser. He says, usually managers tend to have conversations with the player before arriving/signing. Has Ole had conversations with Keny? I think that's difficult for you to know, but I don't know if you have heard anything about that.
I have not heard anything about. All I know is that Saturday, tomorrow, he will be in Beşiktaş, in Istanbul, and I assume I don't know. You can't take my word for it, but I assume they probably had a phone call or something because he's going to be there tomorrow.
Do you know whether or not he is going on his own, or if maybe his mom or family will travel with him and live with him in Istanbul, or is he going to go to the big city? I mean, I don't know where Independiente is and how big that city is, but living on your own in Istanbul is going to definitely be an interesting thing if he is going to do that.
No, I think I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm going to be up to date on his Instagram stories, of the news of him, but I assume that he would, if he has the chance, he would bring his mom, maybe some family members, and maybe his agent will probably come with him to Beşiktaş the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Then, Martin, maybe a quick prediction. Where do you expect him to be in 6 months at the end of the season, and then maybe in 18 months at the end of next season? How do you think his career at Beşiktaş will develop?
I think he can get some minutes. I'm not saying he's going to be an immediate starter, but hey, it could happen if he does well in the few minutes that he has this month and next month, and he could finish out May very well with Beşiktaş. And then for the next season, I think he could really certify himself as a starter, or if Beşiktaş has better talent, better players, be the player that comes in and be a super sub or someone to get involved. I think Beşiktaş is home now, and he wants to play Champions League. He wants to play the Chelsea of Moises Caicedo and all this stuff. So it's looking good. I hope it happens for the kid.
Yeah, I think they see him as an immediate starter, really. Oh, actually, you know what? There's a comment here from Sebastian and Emirhan. I heard he's really keen on his mom, and he will come with him. Of course, we saw the video of his mom getting emotional when he first made his debut.
Yeah, that was great. He got called up, but no one knew he was gonna play. And
on your comments quickly, guys, Sebastian, thank you very much, by the way, for the nice comments. And we try and keep on doing this. Is the first time we do this live, by the way, guys. Usually I always pre-record these, but this is the first live one. I hope you enjoyed it, that you could ask some questions. Let's see what else we have here. Martin looks like Muslera. I think there we go. Martin is back. I think Martin is more handsome than Muslera.
That's so funny that you said that, because one of my friends, he's a Peruvian analyst, he's also said the same thing. I look like Muslera.
I hadn't seen the likeness, honestly, but maybe. And then let's see, we have another comment here from Suleiman. I feel like he might get a lot of minutes since we don't have many wingers. Yeah, I think the same. I think he's gonna get straight into I don't know exactly how quickly Ole is to put new transfers into the team. I'm sure Nasser can answer that question because he's a Manchester United fan. But I expect him to be integrated really, really quickly and getting a ton of minutes. And I suspect that was also part of his decision-making process, why he decided to go for Beşiktaş. Because one of the aspects, of course, when you go to a club like Porto is, you probably end up in a long line of... there's a couple of people ahead of you, and that's his advantage right now at Beşiktaş, that the wings are unfortunately very weak. That's something that's an advantage to him, because he can immediately make his start already. I saw you just joined the chat there, by the way, Martin. I don't know. I know you have to have lunch soon, so I don't want to keep you up too long. But if you...
No, you're good. I've been having fun, but...
All right.
Yeah, I think I gotta go soon.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time, Martin, and for giving us your insights on the player. We're all super excited to see how Keny does, or Cheche, or however we're going to end up calling him. I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see what he prefers himself. Maybe he gets the number 10 jersey. I suspect so, because the number is vacant. So I would not be surprised if he gets it.
Ooh, that'd be awesome. I hope he gets it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we saw he was wearing the number 7 for Ecuador, for the youth side. I don't remember what number he was wearing for the senior team. Number 50 for Independiente, so I'm sure 50 is available too, but number 10 is available, so I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to him, because it does look like he's going to be he's the big signing for this board. This is a new board, and he's their first signing, and if he does well, then he's going to be their poster boy, really, for the new Beşiktaş.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. I did not know that. I'm a Beşiktaş fan for Keny Arroyo now.
Great. Well, hopefully you'll come and join us in the live chats then and watch the games, Martin.
Cool. Sounds good, Con. I definitely will. Thank you for having me on. It's been great. Thank you guys for the questions, and I hope to be back soon.
Yeah, that would be great, man. We'd love to have you on again. And thanks so much for making the time and joining us. And of course, guys, thank you all for watching as well and asking Martin all your questions. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And go and check out our Patreon on patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast for more podcast content. We do lots of extra content, VIP content and stuff like that, like the VIP podcast and stuff. So if you want to support us, other than subscribing and liking and commenting on the videos, go and check that out. Martin, thanks again, and have a great weekend, I would say already.
Thank you, Con. You guys too. Take care, Con. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.